Hello, how are you? Welcome to this channel. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for those that have tuned in to watch the live. Welcome. Yeah, thank you for being here. Today I want us to look at the basic farming process. That is what we will be looking at. Yeah. You can consider subscribing, guys. You can also like the live. Thank you for the 4 likes. Let us continue liking the live. You can also consider subscribing to this channel. Am I audible? Good morning to you. Alex, hola. Welcome, Alex. Welcome, Job. Hello. Makori, good morning. Good morning to you. I don't know. Some of us are in the morning time, others are in the evening time or night time. Good morning, good morning. Sorry for that. So thank you for the likes so far. Thank you for those that are watching. I hope you will enjoy the entire live. We can consider subscribing for those that have not subscribed. Thank you also for those that are liking the live. Let's stay tuned till the end of the live. And I know by the time we come to the end of this live, we will have gained some knowledge that we require. Maybe if you are a farmer, you will gain some knowledge that you will require. If you're not a farmer, you can also learn 1 or 2 things that will be helpful. For those that are here for enjoyment purposes, welcome. Keep us company as the farmers and the non-farmers that would like to be farmers. Welcome to this live. How are you doing? How are you guys? I can see some are saying hello and some are doing well. They're saying good morning. I believe their morning is quite fine. So I think the numbers are quite okay right now. We can start. The rest will join us as we are proceeding. The rest will join us as we are proceeding. Welcome to this morning. Personally, where I am, it's very early in the morning. It's very early in the morning. I wanted to do this live before I go to the farm. That is why I've done it this early. So I think we can start. We can start our live. Karibuni sana those that are joining. I want us to start our live. Maybe you can consider subscribing to this channel. Let us also like the live. I want to give you the farming process that you need to follow as a farmer. I'll look at it generally since I'll not be looking at one type of a crop or such a thing. I'll look at it generally. If you will be choosing to do a specific type of a crop, you will need to know the requirements of growing that crop, or what are the steps that you should take when you'll be growing that crop. And I've done a couple of crops in my channel. You can consider looking at them and know and see what are the requirements, or what do you need to do when you need to grow a certain type of crop. I'm sure I'm not the only YouTuber who is a farmer. There are other people who also are doing farming, and it is also doing so well. So you can watch their content and see what are they doing to in their end, and you can maybe take 1 or 2 key things Are we okay now to begin? Those that are watching, are we okay? Are we comfortable? I now think we can start. I've taken quite some time to allow you all to come in. Those that are still joining, welcome. We are looking at the farming process, the easy farming process. So you can stay tuned, you'll learn one or two things as I've told you. I wanted to do this live before I went to the farm. That's why I've done it this early in the morning. I want to see some progress in my farm. I'll be uploading that video in this channel, so you can stay tuned to see that. But to begin with, in the farming process, welcome. Let's subscribe, guys, and let us also like the live. To the farming process, the first thing that you need to begin with is land preparation. So, if you're planning to plant in a land that, of course, you either had harvested something else or you want to now farm something new to your farm, the first process that you need to begin with is land preparation. And when we are looking at the variety of crops, we'll also look at the land, the location selection. But now, since we're looking at the farming process, the general farming process, one thing that you need to begin with is the land preparation. You already, by at the time you're looking at land preparation, it is my expectation that you as a farmer, you have looked at the requirements of the crop that you will be growing. You have looked at, are my climatic conditions favorable for me? Is the type of soil that I want to plant this farm favorable for this crop? What type of crop do I want to plant? What is required of me? What is the aftercare that I will need? So those are the general questions that you need to ask yourself as a farmer when you will be beginning the farming process, even before you look at the soil preparation. Now, you see, by the time you're getting to the point of preparing your soil, it means that you have already looked at all the requirements and you have realized that you meet all the qualifications or all the requirements that are needed. And now it's your time now to start the farming journey. That is when now you'll start looking at soil preparation. You can prepare yourself in various ways. There are various ways of preparing your soil. You can also start by clearing the farm. If there are previous crops that maybe had grown and after you harvest, you leave the plants standing in the farm, you can consider removing those plants. It is part of clearing your farm and you entirely leave your soil clean. As a farmer, you need to leave that soil clean. The soil should be in such a state that once you look at it, you feel like growing something in that soil. And there are various ways of clearing your farm or preparing your soil, including tilling, but you have to remove everything that is in the farm. Or maybe if there are vines that are remade from the previous growing crops that you had harvested or such things, you need to clear the farm. After that is when you till your farm. Tilling your farm will help you will help mix the soil evenly, or it will help you grow. It will help your soil, the soil that once you plant, the soil above, the soil that is always on the top, that soil really loses fertility quite fast compared to the soil underground. So once you till, you mix that soil, bringing the more fertile soil to the ground. So that is one of the good aspect, or that is one good thing that you can look at when you're looking at tilling of the soil. At this time, when you will be tilling your soil is when you can also think about amending your soil fertility. And you can amend your soil fertility in various ways. You can either amend your soil fertility by adding compost or organic matter. They help a lot in improving your soil fertility. Are you doing maybe animal farming and you're also doing crop cultivation? The animal droppings are a good fertilizer for your crops. When you will be preparing your soil, at this point is where you transport maybe the but do not use the fresh animal droppings. Ensure you use them when they are dry. Once you realize that your you collect, as something is growing in your farm, and you're also doing, if you're doing the animal farming, collect the animal droppings when you will be cleaning where they stay. It can either be maybe hens or chicken, it can be the cows, it can be the pigs. All those animal droppings are very good for your farm when you will be preparing for farming of any of the crop that you will choose to farm. So you will be collecting the animal droppings when you're doing the cleaning, and heaping them and keep them in a place where they are direct to the sun, where they will dry. And when you will be now preparing your soil for the farming process, is when you will take the animal droppings that you are drying and now take it to your farm. And after you have removed all the weeds, after you've ensured your farm is clean, is now when you bring these animal droppings. And after you have brought these animal droppings, you now start mixing it with soil. They are really good source of fertilizer. They are a good source of fertilizer. So mix. Once you mix with the soil, it helps your soil to be fertile. Up to that point, are we okay? I believe we are. Any questions up to that point? I believe there are no questions. So once you mix your once you mix your soil with the animal droppings that you have collected, remember, you will be improving your soil fertility, and you will also be improving you will be improving your soil fertility, and you will improve the level of the soil drainage in your farm. You will improve your soil fertility and also the level of water drainage, the drainage level of your soil, sorry, the drainage level of your soil. Once your soil is well drained, you will definitely know that you will not experience the problems of waterlogging, among many other problems that come with waterlogging. So generally, soil preparation is quite an easy process. It's quite an easy process that we can all manage. It's not that it's not something that you require maybe I don't know what, but it is quite an easy process for you to maneuver. Okay, to the next part. Up to that point, I think that we are okay. To the next part is the seed selection. Now, you have already prepared your soil, and you know this is the type of crop that I need to grow. Please, when you will be preparing your soil, and when you will be selecting your seeds, ensure that the seeds that you have selected to farm have not reached to the dormancy stage. The dormant seeds will never grow. You'll wait for them to grow, and they will never grow. So ensure the seeds that you are using are not dormant. You can choose to buy your seeds from a farmer's store that you believe, or that you have had some reviews about the farm, and some of these farmers store really sell some good seeds for you as the farmers. And I know it will be beneficial to you when you plant these seeds to your farm, because they will grow effectively. And now when you're doing seed selection, please select the seed with the most, or with the highest quality. Quality is what determines what you will harvest. If you plant seeds that are not of good quality, remember the growth percentage of the seeds will be really low, because you will find you will maybe have planted in a hole, for example, in one hole you have planted three seeds and only one is growing. The rest of the other two will not grow. It means you selected the seeds of low quality, and that is why you are not having that good germination, or that is why you are not getting the germination level that you required. So seed selection is a very important thing. Do not get seeds for the sake of planting. Please ensure that you get seeds from a source that you trust. This is a good source, and I can use these seeds that, and for them to give me an effective production that you expect. You know, as a farmer, you always do budgeting. You know, this is the amount of money that I am willing to invest in the purchase of seeds, and this is the amount you budget. And after you budget, you also plan and take the effective measures that you are required as the farmer. And at the end of the day, you have forecast profit or forecast output that you want to get. And once you plant the seeds that will not really grow well, it means that the entire of your budget will not get to the what you had estimated is not what you will get. Therefore, let us ensure that as farmers we take this as a very serious point when it comes to seed selection. What you plant is what you'll harvest. If you plant a seed that is really not it will not even yield well. It doesn't matter the amount of fertilizer that you have put in that farm. It doesn't matter the amount of compost or organic matter that you've added to your soil. You will definitely not get the yield that you expect to get. Let's take that into consideration. And I've told you, if you're not sure about which seeds to plant, go and seek advice to those farming stores or farmers stores. They sell really good quality seeds, but make sure you have also done your research as a farmer and know where I live at, which store sells good quality seeds. These people, they will advise you. You can listen to what other farmers are saying, and you will also be able to make that judgment yourself. Those that have joined, welcome. You can consider subscribing to this channel. Thank you for the likes. I love you so much, guys. And now when it comes to the sowing process, I'm done with the seed selecting process. As I've told you, in that process, make sure you get your seeds from a store that you really trust and believe in. To the now sowing process, this is what you need to know. When you will be sowing your crops, or when you will be sowing your seeds, please ensure that you follow the required spacing, you follow the required depth, you follow the everything that is required for you during the sowing process. And now, since it is a general, I'm talking about this generally. Remember, different seeds or different crops require different spacing and require different methods of planting. So you look at, for example, which type of a crop is this that I am growing? Maybe I can give you one example of sowing. When you choose to sow, what you can do. For example, for a crop like mustard greens, when you will be sowing, it says you can sow seeds directly into the ground. This means you do not have maybe to do the indoor starting, or you also don't have to do the nursery planting. You can start them directly in your farm, and you sow. If the seeds if the soil is dry, water a day before. Before you now start the sowing process, ensure that you have watered your farm a day before. And for the planting process, this is what you need to know. Make small drills, 10 millimeters per deep, and space rows between 25 to 30 centimeters apart. Now you see, for such a crop, you'll need to space your rows between 25 to 30 centimeters. That is why I've told you, you need to know which type of a crop am I going to grow, and what are the spacing requirements for me when I'll be sowing this crop, and what else do I need to put into consideration before I plant this crop, and which way will I be planting this crop. After now you have planted your crop, after you have taken all the necessary measures when it comes to the spacing and the sowing and the seed selection and the preparation of your land, you now need to put into consideration the irrigation mechanism that you will be using. I'll put a post there. Is there any question? As I still continue with the planting process, maybe you can be posing the questions in the comment section and I'll be answering them. And now I want us to look at the irrigation process. If you're in semi-arid areas, you need, of course, you can be a farmer still in the semi-arid areas, but one thing you need to take into consideration is the watering mechanism that you're going to use. And imagine, even if you're still in the, people are doing farming in the semi-arid areas and they are really doing well. The only thing that you need to put, sorry for that, the only need that you need to the only thing that you need to put into consideration is how will I be irrigating my farm. Yes, I'm aware I'm living in the semi-arid areas and I'm planning to plant this and this type of a crop that does well maybe in areas that receive high levels of rainfall. And for me, as I live in these semi-arid areas, what do I need to put into what irrigation mechanisms can I use to keep my crops growing well? You know, you have to water your crops for them to yield as you expect as a farmer or to meet your expectation. And I'm telling you, even those living in the semi-arid areas, you can do this. Maybe you can choose to have a harvesting mechanism that you will put into place. Once it rains, you harvest the rainwater. And that rainwater is what you will use when there will be no rains. And once you use that water when there are no rains, it means you are doing irrigation to your farm. There are those others that if you're not if you're living in semi-arid areas, that is the most effective method or I've seen people use the harvesting of the rainwater, storing it and using it when it's not raining or when it's a bit dry or when there are no rains. But if you're living in areas where you can get some source of water or water is available for you, you can maybe consider doing the drip irrigations, the use of sprinklers. There are various ways that you can also irrigate your farm, but it also depends on the type of crops that you have planted. If you have planted your crops in rows, it means it will be easy for you to do drip irrigation. If you have not planted your crops in rows, it means that use of sprinkler will be better for you as a farmer. So you can also choose to create to dig you can choose, what do we call them, boreholes. You can choose to use the boreholes. Once you drill in the boreholes, you can use maybe the generators to pump the water to your farm, and also you can maybe pump to a tank, then connect the tank to the pipes in your farm. You just open the tap and irrigate your farm. One thing you have to know as a farmer is you have to ensure that your farm is always irrigated. And for those that maybe if you do not have that much water to always keep irrigating your farm, you can consider also using mulching. Mulching will help the soil retain water for some time without having to water and rewater every now and then. So if you're facing some challenges with getting this water to for your farm or water to water your farm, you can consider doing mulching so that you can preserve some amount of water in your soil. I'm done with the irrigation part. I believe we have grasped something on that. I now want us to look at fertilization. If you're new here, you welcome to this channel. You can also consider subscribing to this channel, guys. And you can also review and watch the types of steps or the requirements that I've given for the growth of various crops. And that will help you, since today we are looking at them generally. To the fertilization, there are various types of fertilizers in the market, and different fertilizers are favorable for different crops. That is why I told you, you need to first of all know the requirements of growing the type of crop that you choose. Make sure if you choose a type of a crop, if you say this is the type of a crop that I want to grow, make sure you know which fertilizers do I use, which fertilizers do I need. In the planting process, some of the crops that you will choose to plant will require some fertilizers. Some will also require some top dressing fertilizers. Some will also require the slow release fertilizers, so that they each and every time as they grow, they are getting some nutrients or from the fertilizer. So it depends with the crop that you are growing. That is what will help you know which are the type of fertilizers that I require. But for all the crops, I think all the crops really do well with the compost or organic manure matter. It helps your soil get some nutrients from those organic matter. And I've told you some of them are the animal droppings, but ensure you do not use the animal droppings that you've gotten directly from the animals, or the ones that are, what can I call it, the ones that you have not preserved for quite some time, maybe to get to dry and yeah. Let me just say to dry. I'm looking for a better word to explain that type of animal droppings. Ensure you have stored them for quite some time before you take them to your farm. It will help you, it will help the soil, improve the soil. It will help improve the soil fertility. But for the various type of fertilizers that you buy from the store, it will depend on which type of a crop that you have planted. For example, if you plant maize, CAN is a very nice top dressing fertilizer. And you'll also use a different type of a fertilizer when you'll be planting. That is why I said know which type of a crop you have planted and understand the various types of fertilizer that you are required to put in your farm. I'm done with that process. Thank you so much for those that are still joining. You can consider subscribing to this channel. Let us also like the live as we proceed. Karibuni sana. Now to the pests and weeds. Hey, this is another greatest challenge if you do not take caution about it. You can have planted your crops and they are doing so well. You can have grown your crops that are doing so well. But once it comes to the pests and diseases, you end up getting nothing. The yields that you will get, you cannot even compensate the capital that you put in your farm. Therefore, you need to take all the corrective measures. You need to take care of all the corrective measures once you realize that your farm is being affected by either by pests or the diseases. Yeah, that is what, as I was looking at the pests and diseases. Remember, also you need to remember that different crops are affected by different types of pests, and different crops are also affected by different types of diseases. It's you as a farmer, as I was telling you, as you are doing your research on the type of crop that you need to grow in your farm, you will look at the type of the crop, and you also look at the challenges that it's likely to face. You also look at which are the likely pests that will affect this type of a crop, and which are the type of diseases that will also affect this type of a crop. And by then you will be prepared, and you will realize, and you'll also be able to maybe notice which type of a pest is this, or which type of a disease is this, and you will take effective corrective measures because you will have prepared yourself earlier when it comes to the pests and the diseases that are likely to affect the type of crop that you will be growing. So it's something you have to prepare earlier. Do not wait until your crops are affected by this pest and now you are trying to figure out which type of a pest is this, which type of a disease is this. Remember, as you're still figuring it out, it's still affecting your crops, and at the end of the day, your yield will really not be good. So you need to prepare earlier so that when you start realizing this pest and these diseases, you'll be able to know, I know this type of which pest is this, I know which type of a disease is this, and I know solutions to this problem, so that you will take those solutions instantly to reduce the loss that you might get at the end of the day. You also have to be a close farmer to your crops. Remember, once you've decided to do farming, it has to be something that you entirely as a person enjoy doing. And you cannot be a farmer and you have not even gone to that farm to see how it's progressing for 1 month. You just went, planted, and left, and now you're waiting for the harvesting periods to go and enjoy those harvests. Really, it will not help you as a farmer. Make sure it's something you love doing. Be Always be in your farm. Check your crops, check the progress of your crops regularly. It will help you if you do it regularly, or if you do it oftenly. It will help you notice and realize once these crops have started to be affected, or once they get affected by the pest and the diseases. So that's why I'm telling you, always ensure that you are a farmer that is always in the field or in the market, or sorry, in the farm, so that you can notice the likely pests and the likely diseases that will be affecting your farm. Apart from pests and diseases, I want to tell you another thing that really might affect your farm still under pests and diseases. So for the pest, you can consider using integrated pest management. There are various methods in that aspect. You can look at them and choose one of it that you want to take into consideration. And apart from pests and diseases, weeds can also be a help in your farm. Remember, once your farm has weeds, it means the weeds are fighting for the nutrients with the crops that you have planted. Imagine if you put in fertilizer in a field that has weeds. The weeds will take in the most of the fertilizer. I don't know what happens, but I have realized when as I during this farming period, that since when I started doing farming, I came to realize that weeds absorb that fertilizer very fast compared to how the fertilizer will absorb compared to how the crops will absorb that fertilizer. The crops tend to take in the fertilizer in a slower motion when you compare it to the weeds. So this means if you will be putting in some fertilizer in a farm that has weeds, it means you will just have thrown away the money that you used to purchase that fertilizer, because the weeds will take the fertilizer that you've put in your farm, and you'll just get to the farm and realize your crops are growing worse and the weeds are really nice. The weeds are the ones that seem to be even doing it's like you'll harvest the weeds and leave the crops that you have planted. So ensure that you, as a farmer, you always weed your farm. Ensure that your crops are always free from weeds, because the weeds are the greatest enemy to a farmer, and they compete for the nutrients with the crops that you have planted. So let's keep that into consideration, and maybe if you if you if you also need to regulate the weeds, you can consider doing mulching. Mulching helps suppress the growth rate of weeds, and they will give you some time to keep the track of the track of the weeds, or they will allow mulching will help you when it comes to the weeding process, because it will reduce the amount of weeds in your farm. There are other also care mechanisms that are required by different types of crops. So make sure that you know, apart from weeds, apart from pests, apart from diseases, there are other aftercare that you need to take note of But this aftercare, I'll not give them here because we are looking at generally the type of crops that you will be growing. So, no, these crops require this and this aftercare. As you observe the pest and the diseases and the weeds, you also take into consideration the aftercare, or this is what I need to do, or the aftercare mechanism that you should put to different types of crops that you choose to grow. After that is now when you do the harvesting. Welcome those that are still joining. Welcome to this channel. You can consider subscribing and also liking the lives. The live. Thank you for the likes so far. Thank you for also those that have tuned to watch this live. Now I want to look at the next part. Maybe I can do a brief of what we are doing for those that have joined. We are looking at the farming process where we said you start with land preparation to seed selection and sowing to irrigation to fertilizing to pest and weeds control, also the diseases control. And now we are in the sixth step where it comes to harvesting. People just think that harvesting is going to the farm and harvesting what you had planted and taking it to where you want it to go, or taking it to the market, or where you will be selling your crop, or taking it to the store. But no, harvesting is an entire process that takes very many steps that you need to know as a farmer. Do we have any question till where we are? Maybe let me know if there are questions. Let's type them in the comment section. I'll be answering them. So when it comes to harvesting, you need to prepare, or when you will be doing, before you plant, you do a planning of the steps or what you will be doing for the entire of the planting process. And one thing you need to take care of, or one thing you need to look at, is the harvesting mechanism that you will use. Once you decide to plant this type of a crop, let's say crop A is what you have selected to plant in your farm. Before you even plant that crop, you need to have a forecast. You need to forecast and know which type of a harvesting mechanism will I use. Will I use the machine mechanism to harvest this type of a crop, or do I need to do the manual harvesting? This will help you do the budget, so that by the time you're getting in the by the time you're getting in that what am I saying? By the time you're getting in that phase of harvesting, you will have already prepared yourself on how you will be doing the harvesting process and what you need to put into consideration. And if you choose, for example, if you choose to do a manual harvesting, you will have planned or of where to get your laborers from. One thing that is for sure, if you're doing manual harvesting, getting laborers is a hectic process. You'll not just go and get people from nowhere to come to your farm and harvest for you. No, you need to have planned or know, where do I get these laborers from? Who is willing to harvest this crop for me at this and this cost? And you also look at, will they be consistent? Will they come to my farm? Maybe if you need them for 5 days, are they available for those 5 days to do the harvesting for me? What will they be charging? Will they be charging you per day or per hours? You see, those are the things that you need to look at when it comes to harvesting. And that will help you do the budgeting process. It will help you know, I need to allocate this and this amount of money to the harvesting process. Make sure you come up with a template where you put in all the expenses that you have incurred since the time you started even reasoning about planting a certain type of a crop. At the end of the day, it will help you total up and know this is what I have spent when farming this crop. Therefore, it means I'll have to also sell this crop at this to sell this harvest at this and this amount, maybe per harvest per crop production. In order to maybe return the money that I have invested and also make some profit. Remember, no one, even us as the farmers, even if we are doing it out of, even if we are doing it out of passion, we're also looking at that end goal, the money. Who doesn't love money? Personally, I do farming because I realized farming has some good money. Ama who else? Munafanya farming for what purposes? So if you're doing the laborers harvesting, you ensure that you know where will I get these laborers from, or what, and what is their cost. If you're doing the machine harvesting, you also need to know where will I get this machine from, because I'm quite sure many farmers have not gotten to that point of buying those machines. Most of us hire the machines for them to do the harvesting process for us. So you need to know where will I get this machine from, and what will be the cost of hiring this machine, and for how many days or how many hours will this machine be in my farm. Those are things you need to take into consideration when you will be harvesting. So I think harvesting is the part that we all love as a farmers, because now we know it's time for getting money, and you know it's time that now I enjoy, I harvest. It's the time I get the profits that maybe I intended to get. It's the time I get this additional money that I need. It's the time now to have that money to keep the process, to keep you going as a person. Yeah, it's the time to take yourself out on a date and maybe eat one or two things. Ni masaa ya kuambia mwili asante. Now, after you have harvested, it's you to know to which type of which way or what you will be using to harvest. It's now when we get to the post-harvest process. What do you need to take to know about the post-harvest process? Or you just harvest and that's it? So for the post-harvest process is where you do with is where you look at cleaning, drying, sorting, storing. Maybe they are root tubers. Of course, you'll need to clean them before you take them to the market, or even before you think about storing them. Is where now you'll need, is where you look at the drying process. For example, if they are maize, if you had grown some maize in your farm, is after that is when you will now sun dry your maize before you take it to the market, or before you store it. So post harvest handling as it requires a lot, from the cleaning to the drying to the sorting and to the storing, till the time that you take these crops back to the harvest to your stores or to the market. So it requires a lot. Thank you for those that are still joining. Welcome to this channel. You can consider subscribing, and you can also consider liking this live. Maybe additional farming practices that I can give you, one of them is crop rotation. So crop rotation is where you do not plant one type of a crop all the season. You harvest beans and then you plant beans again. No. Once you harvest beans, next round plant maize. After you've harvested maize, the next time plant peas. That is what we are calling crop rotation. Next, maybe plant Irish potatoes. You do not have entirely to be growing one type of a crop. For me, once I start even thinking of growing one type of a crop as a farmer, it becomes monotonous. You just feel exhausted. You just feel tired because you'll be doing one crop or one crop again. And remember, if you do not do crop rotation, the yields will also minimize as time goes by. If you had planted maybe maize this round and you still plant maize again, this harvest will be better than the next harvest because of the soil. I don't know what happens, but you can consider maybe doing a crop rotation. It will really help you a lot when it comes to the yields that you get at the end of the day. The next thing is integrated farming. Integrated farming is where maybe you're doing crop farming and you at the same time you're also keeping these animals. Remember I told you the animal keeping will help you get the fertilizer for your farm, because those animal droppings are a source of fertilizer when it comes to the planting and the farming of various types of crops. The animal droppings are really some good source of fertilizer. Therefore, this means once you do integrated farming, you'll be able to get these animal droppings easily from your animals. And also, if for example you have for the crop cultivation, you have planted napier grass, it means you will be having a source of food for your animals. So it is like they are dependent variables. They depend on each other. The farmers, the plants in the farm and the animals at your home, they depend on each other. Now, you can also do precision agriculture, whereby you utilize technology. There are various technologies that have been improvised or have come up, and these technologies are really helping farmers. Do not entirely depend on the old ways of doing farming. Maybe you can also look and take into place integrating your farming process using these various technology. And to the last thing that I'll be looking at is the organic agriculture, is whereby you used to do farming without synthetic pesticides, fertilizers, or genetically modified organisms. For you as a farmer, you'll not use those organic things or the organic chemicals in your farm, and now you have to now come up with ways that are not organic to ensure that your farm is always fertile and to ensure that you are also doing some cultivation that will give you a positive and a great yield at the end of the day. So those are the things that you need to look at, and those are the processes that you can take into place as a farmer. That is all that you needed to know about this live. Maybe to begin with, as I've told you, you can do land preparation. Then after land preparation is where you do seed selection and sowing. After doing selection and sowing is where you do irrigation. That's how you realize I've talked for an hour. Yeah, you do the irrigation. After irrigation you do fertilization. After fertilization you take care of the pest and the weeds and also the diseases. After that is where you do the harvesting, and then you do the post harvest. And then the additional tips that I've given you, like crop rotation, doing precision agriculture, this is where you use technologies, doing organic agriculture, among integrated farming, among many other things. I believe this live was helpful. I believe this live was helpful. I now want to take questions in the next 4 minutes. Are they four? No, three. Anyone with a question? Those that are still joining, welcome to this live. Welcome to this live. Anyone with a question? I want now to take you for a nature walk. I want to take you for a nature walk. Anyone with a question? Anyone with a question? If none, we can maybe go out to the field and enjoy some nature. I think we can go out to the field and enjoy some nature. 2 more minutes for the questions. So as you have seen, it was really it's quite an easy thing that you can. Farming is quite an easy thing. It's an easy. I think it's very easy to do farming. If I was asked, you just need to be a little bit dedicated and also love farming. And I'm very sure at the end of the day, you'll be doing so well. So thank you so much. Since there's no question, thank you for watching this live. For those that are joining, let us consider subscribing to this channel and also let's like this live. Now I'm done with that farming. I'm done with that farming process. I want us to go outside and enjoy nature. I want us now to go outside. Since that is done, I'm done with that process. Let's go out. Let us go outside now. Let's see how the weather is, what is happening out there. Yeah. And now let's do that.